Now before I start this video, which doesn't really have any kind of structure or anything, I'm drinking tea because stupidly I decided to give up cider for November.
Unbelievable, Jeff!
My own idea, and I'm absolutely clucking. And to top that off, I've just made a really cup of tea. Hello everyone and welcome to another Nothing But Fishing, and today you join me on the banks of my syndicate, which is actually my first session in probably over 2 months on here. I've done obviously the odd trip through work and things. It's the first personal trip in a very long time, so I thought I'd get the camera out and do a little piece for my own channel. Now today's video is a bit more about covering some of the questions I get asked all the time, so kind of get that all covered in one video. Some other questions I put on Facebook and Instagram the other day. Any questions you want to ask me, I'll try and answer as many of them as I can in this video. And just a little bit more of an insight into me as a person, I guess. Something I don't think I've seen much of in the fishing world on blogging and that. It's always about fishing, but I thought I'd tell you a bit more about the rest of my life, my other interests and things, just because it's very much a community I find on my my channel. The people that follow me, or the people that follow me and subscribe and things, I feel almost like online you're all my mates.
Gay!
Basically, so I'm waffling way too much, but basically the more personal stuff you know about me, the more you can know me as a person, and hopefully enjoy these videos and they feel much more personal. So I'm going to start off with a few things you probably didn't know about me. Trying to save this cup of tea with one tea bag is like a substitute teacher trying to keep control of her class. It's just not going to happen. Ugh. But it's carpy to have a cup of tea, so I'm going to stick with it. Now, if you're new to my channel or you haven't seen much of my content before, then I've been around on YouTube for, well over 10 years. I've had various different channels before I set this one up back in January 2009. So I've actually been blogging and uploading probably 12, 13 years, but this channel in particular is coming up 11 years. And it's just been a progression of journeys of my fishing, progressively getting better at fishing, I think, anyway, and better at camera work and editing. So if you want to see how it first began, go back to one of my very first videos and then go back to what I do now. So I'd like to think I've improved, certainly have in my career sense, because if you didn't know as well, I also work for Carpology magazine. I've been working for them for 2.5 years now, I believe, so time is absolutely flying by, and there I am a cameraman and presenter for the magazine as well. So I live and breathe fishing. Today's a personal trip, but if I had work to do, I'd probably still be here anyway, so same location, whether it's my office for the day or enjoyment. Now, as this video is probably going to go out towards the end of November or maybe December, I thought we'd do a roundup of the year as well. As I'm sure all of you will agree, you always get to the end of the year and thought, I wish I'd done more fishing, or I didn't do as much as I'd have liked. And it's always the case. You can always wish you'd done a bit more, but it doesn't mean I haven't had a good year. I've had a wonderful year, both personal life and my fishing. So fishing, I fished various different countries. Myself and Luke with Carpology did just over a week in Belgium, fishing 2 different venues. So I caught my first ever Belgian carp. Had a wonderful time there. If you haven't seen that, both videos are up on the Carpology channel. I'll put the links in the description below. I also caught my first ever Dutch carp. So one of the things you may not know is my girlfriend is from Holland. So got very good connections with going over to Holland, and of course got to take the rods now because there's so much opportunities for fishing. I'm sure every time we go over from now on, I'll be taking the rods. But yeah, I've not done anywhere near as much on my syndicate as I'd like. This is probably, I could almost count on one hand how many sessions I've done on her this year, including this one. So it really hasn't been very productive for me on this lake, but I've enjoyed it all the same. Moving on from that, from next year, hopefully I'll get more time on here. We've got a new series with Carpology. I don't want to be too much about work orientated on here, but it is a big part of my life. We've got a new series which we started up a few months ago of open access day ticket waters. So myself and my colleague will be going around the country fishing different day tickets. So that's been a great way of us being able to visit different places, perhaps meet some of you on the bank, and also just get a load more fish on the bank. And it's very much the same as my sort of blogging style, but it's through my my work route. So if you do like the content I put out, then I do recommend you subscribe to Carpology, because I'm on there a lot more than I'm on here anyway. That is enough about work for now. Moving on to things about me. Now I'm going to start with football. I am a massive football fan. Ever since a kid, my dad took myself and my sisters to Ashton Gate to watch Bristol City. So of course I'm a massive Bristol City fan. I'm from the area, so it's not like I support a team that I don't live anywhere near or don't ever see. I'm a season ticket holder, go to every single home game and sometimes away, and live and breathe football. I'll watch it if it's on, I'll watch other teams if it's a neutral game. I just love watching it and getting involved. And I also play football as well. I play 5-a-side or 6-a-side. I may not be brilliant, but I just love all forms of football, whether I'm watching it or playing it. I also play guitar, really enjoy playing guitar. I don't play anywhere near as much as I used to. Again, it seems like with my fishing, I thought, if only I'd done a bit more of that. But with all these different hobbies I've got, it means that I'm never bored. I'm always doing something. But I love playing guitar, and that also leads me to my music tastes. I love metal music. If any of you follow me on Instagram and Facebook and things, you'll see a lot of my updates. Even today on the way to the lake, I was listening to a band called All Shall Perish, a song called Wage Slaves. So I'm very much into my metal music, which doesn't seem like it would go hand in hand with how peaceful and tranquil it is here, but I don't see any issue with listening to brutal heavy metal in the bivvy or just looking at this. It's all my enjoyment. Of course, I'm into all sorts of music, drum and bass, used to be in dubstep, not so much anymore. Can't really stand jazz and things like that, but mainly metal, any kind of extreme of a music. I can't listen to just bland stuff, which is normally what's on the radio. This tea is not getting any better. Nearly finished this piss. Now, for those of you that have followed me for a long time on various different social media platforms or even on here, it comes as no surprise, or you already know, I absolutely love my cider. Being from the West Country, it's basically from the tip to the can, and Thatcher's Gold is pretty much my staple, and then everything else is on some kind of scale around that, and that's how I guide my ciders. And I actually get more messages, no, not more messages, but just as many messages, I swear, of people with a cider in hand saying cheers. So I very much built up this image of myself as a cider drinker. And lastly, but probably one of the biggest things you didn't know about me, is that I am a Christian. I'm actually a Baptist. I got baptised this year. I go to church every Sunday, so that's why you very rarely see me fishing on a Sunday. So there's something I bet none of you even knew about. And before you ask, praying has never upped my catch rate. Before I move on to all the rest of the questions I've got, one of the most common ones I get asked is what equipment do I use and what camera would people recommend? I am currently filming on my Sony a7R II. I've had that for 2.5, 3 years now actually, might even be 4 years. I've had it a very long time. It films in 4K, 1080p, 50 frames, 720p, 100 frames, so that. Hopefully going to get an upgrade soon. But that is the camera I use. I'm currently filming on my Zeiss 55. The other lenses I have and own is an 85mm 1.4 Samyang lens, a 14mm f2.8, and a 100mm macro 2.8. Oh, and one more actually, a 24mm 2.8. So those are the lenses I use. All the filming you ever see from me are from those lenses. I do have a GoPro as well, which I don't use very much anymore, but that is pretty much it. So when it comes to recommendations, just going to wait for the helicopter to fly over again. So when it comes to recommendations, I nearly always tell people the same thing. As you know, I'm using the Sony. I've used Sony for years. I started with a Sony Nex C3, then a Nex 7, and then the a7R II. So I've always been Sony, really enjoy them. So I've barely ever used Canon or Nikon at all. So when I get messages about people, what's better, Canon or Nikon, I say, don't know, neither, I'd go Sony. So if you're looking for a camera, depending on what your needs are, if you're just wanting catch shots, then maybe just getting a self-take stand for your phone or whatever and a timer. If you want to step up from that, get some nicer shots in the bank, then I recommend the Sony a6000, I think it is one of the latest one, or the a6100. Those are sort of the smaller versions of what I've got, but still extremely good quality for what you need on the bank. And then if you're stepping up to maybe what I'm sort of doing, is, again, you can get away with the cameras I've just mentioned, but I am using an a7R II and hopefully going to get a updated camera fairly soon as well. And again, I also get asked all the time about what editing software I use, and it is Adobe Premiere Pro. So now it's time for some of your questions. I put this up just over a week ago on my Facebook, and I'm just going to shoot through some of them now. So the first one is from James Waterton. That is mad. My second name is Waltorton, spelled completely different, This is Waterton. Waterton. I'm getting confused with my own name. Anyway, he said, are you at a Manchester NAS event this year? And at the moment, I do not think so, no. I should be at Brentwood, because Carpology do a lot of promo stuff for Brentwood, so I'll probably be there filming that. Steve Dimmer, how can I find the time to actually go fishing and blog? It is pretty hard. I understand you're very, very busy with the cafe, with you and Margot, but find the time. Don't have to blog if you don't want, just get out and do some fishing. Craig Davies, what's your favourite cider at the moment? Any cider, to be honest, if I could, but like I said, I'm not drinking for November, but I'm not bitter about it. I haven't mentioned it once in this video, I don't think so far, but as soon as I do, it'll be some form of Thatcher's. I'm actually very keen on the Thatcher's Old Rascal at the moment. Christopher Knight, how do you put a donk on it? Put a banging donk on it. Paul Holt, any help on self-takes when fishing alone? I do struggle. I did a video dedicated to self-takes, so again, I'll put the link in the description below. It was actually in this exact swim, and I managed to catch one, which was awesome. So yeah, watch that. That's how I did it with this camera, but I understand that you can get self-take kits for your iPhone and things like that, little mounts for the bank. But yeah, I have got a video dedicated to that. Damien Bolton, what do you think to the comeback of MCR? Now that's My Chemical Romance. I've never listened to them before intentionally, wouldn't be able to name a single song, so couldn't care less. Colin Sutter, can you advise on how to get creative with B-roll? Again, I did a video a couple of years ago now, I probably need to do an updated one on how I get my B-roll, how I film my things. It's just, lenses do help a lot. Like the 55mm I've got on there, or the 85mm with a shallow depth of field, you can get that really fine focus, so you can do along the rod shots and things like that. I use a gimbal to get a bit more dynamic shots. Just Google it or YouTube it on how to get cinematic shots, it will really help you. The Cambridge Carper, what post-processing software do you use? Already covered that. And what FPS do you shoot at? I'm currently shooting at 25 frames per second. If I'm doing any kind of slow-mo, this thing only goes up to 50 frames a second at 1080p, so that's the most I'll shoot, but then I slow it down to 25, so it's half speed at 25 frames a second, but typically 25 frames a second. Danny Birder, how do you get great photos on your own just with a phone? I don't do lots of photos on my phone other than just capturing the moment. Don't really upload many pictures just from my phone, but if I was, try and go into the menus and see how much you can adjust on your phone. Like with this, I've got a it's called a manual mode, so I can adjust shutter speed, aperture, ISO, white balance and things like that, so you can control quite a bit on here, but to be honest, I just take standard pictures with my phone. I don't do a lot with it. Graham Sallins, what do you think of bait boats and would you use them? I have no issue with gates. If a venue allows them, then great, you can use them. If a venue doesn't bother me. I've never used one myself, but I would never say never. I probably would if I had the chance to use one on a venue that would increase my chances of catching. Adam Smith, please show me how to set up your chod rigs if you wanted to do a rig Q&A. I don't use chods all that often, and it's very simple. Google any kind or YouTube any kind of chod rig, and they're all pretty much the same. Different companies come out with different sort of bees or safety setups, but the principle of a chod is very basic. Neil Brown, who's a top fan, may I add, what do you think makes a video blog stand out these days as the media platform seems saturated, and what podcasts do you listen to? The second part of the question, I don't listen to many podcasts at all. The only ones I have been listening to on occasion when I'm driving is the Spodcast, which is Dom's podcast. I've been on it myself when he was fairly new to starting out, so that's pretty much it. But as for making your videos stand out, very common question actually, quite a good one. It's very much, I think it helps if you are natural on camera, you come across well and people enjoy your personality. I'm very much a Marmite character online. Some people can't stand me, other people, if you're watching this, I'd like to think you enjoy my content and like me. So come across very personable and natural, I think, and also try and make your quality as good as possible. Audio is a massive thing. If the audio quality is awful, so wind noise or crackly, or the levels are up and down, I've made these mistakes in the past myself. That turns me off watching a video. And also just trying to make things look as good as possible. Less talking. I know this video is heavily me talking, but it's a bit different to a normal one. Less talking, more scenery, more what you're doing. I think I've made the mistake in the past of overdoing it on the dialogue, and it just bores people. A lot of what you can film can translate what you're trying to say as it is. So basically, make something you would like to watch. Don't bore people. Brad Michael, can I stroke your hair? Not through the medium of the internet, I'm afraid, but if you ever see me in person, many people do. James King, did you always film with 2 people on nothing but fishing? Seems so hard to make anything decent film-wise if you fish on your own. I have always been by myself from day one. If I've ever had a mate with me, then they've helped with some kind of filming fish. But what you see on my YouTube is 100% me, from setting up the camera angles, filming it, setting up the mic, is all done by myself. So yes, it does take a long time, especially if I'm filming myself walking around the lake or walking rivers, especially because there's no way around a river. You've got to go straight along it and then back and get the camera. So there's a lot in it. Again, in a video I did a couple of years ago on how I film my vlogs, that is translated. I show you in there. It does take a lot of time, but I enjoy making as best content I can, and I get satisfaction out of exporting that video and being happy with what I've made, and know that the effort I put in, both in the filming and editing, hopefully translates into a good video for you guys to watch. Terry Weston, do you get to keep all the tackle you test? Get asked this one quite a lot, and the simple answer is no. Pretty much all of it goes back, but that's not to say that I don't get to keep some stuff. If I really like an item, then I can contact the person that sent it to me, see if we can work out some kind of deal. Sometimes I do get to keep stuff if it's not worth the hassle of sending it back, but no, pretty much everything I review does go back. That is pretty much everything. I don't want to rabbit on too long. I think this video is probably going to be quite long as it is. So I hope that gives you a bit more of an insight on me, my personal life, everything I've been doing, what I'm about, and that's answered some of your common questions as well. So I'm going to continue enjoying my session, hopefully catch something. Still bubbles coming up on that spot, so I don't know what is going on, why that hasn't gone off. But I'm going to kick back, relax, enjoy the session. So cheers for watching. Please subscribe to me if you haven't already. Hit the bell, which is somewhere, I don't know if it's whereabouts, but apparently it gives you a notification when I upload a video, which isn't very often, so it'd be good if you did hit that, because then you won't miss it when they do go up. Also follow me on Instagram. I do loads of stuff on there, with uploading pictures on the main feed, or doing lots of Instagram story updates. So it gives you a bit of an insight on what I'm doing day to day, and on Facebook as well, which is pretty much the same sort of content as Instagram. But that's it. I'm gonna go make a decent cup of tea now. Cool.